president of the American Action Forum. And as one part of commemorating our 5th anniversary, we have launched the Fred Malek Lecture Series. It is a series named after our founding, dedicated to bringing to this stage people who embody the principles of the American Action Forum, which is an interest in policy ideas, a desire to communicate them effectively to the American people, but most importantly, success in putting them into action, to legislating, governing, and improving the policies that actually affect our businesses, our families, all across this country. And so I'm pleased to have the opportunity to have you join us today. And there is no person better situated to introducing our latest speaker than the namesake himself, our chairman, Fred Malek. Fred?
Thank you. Before I introduce our speaker, let me just say a couple of words about Doug and the American Action Forum. I am enormously proud to be associated with the American Action Forum and with Doug Holtz-Eakin. There are a lot of organizations in this town. There are a lot of think tanks. There are a lot of political organizations. I have never been part of anything that fights so much above their weight in this organization and has so much impact and so much influence on public policy. And Doug, I thank you and the team for everything you do to make it so. When I guess I envisioned the American Action Forum right after Doug and I worked together in the 2008 campaign, the McCain campaign, and I felt at the time that we were being defined, we Republicans were being defined by the hard right and by nobody else. And therefore, we needed a body that would bring together policies that everybody from, let's say, a Jim the Mint to an Olympia Snow could embrace and rally around. And let's focus on those policies and those policies of unity that would elect more people. And that's what we've attempted to do, and Doug, that's what you've done. Now, I'm really, really pleased to have an opportunity to have Rick Scott with us today. I just so much admire anyone who's able to transition from the world of business CEO to the world of a political CEO and do it with such effectiveness. Rick Scott, we have some similarities, Rick. We were both born in Illinois. Both our fathers were truck drivers. We both persevered and saved money, put our life savings into a business. In my case, it was a business that made pliers and wrenches and stuff like that when I was 30 years old. Rick, after getting his law degree and practicing law for a few days, or maybe a few years, put his life savings into forming a company called Columbia Healthcare. He grew, from that small start, he grew Columbia into the largest healthcare system in the United States of America with 285,000 employees. An enormously successful company that has done so much for so many people in healthcare. He then decided to run for governor. I'll never forget it, Rick. You won't either. Rick and I sit down in my house. Rick said, I'm thinking of running for governor. Why would you do that? We got a perfectly good attorney general who's going to run for governor, and I don't think you ought to run, Rick. I don't think you can win. And he said, well, he looked at me in the eye, he said, well, you're wrong. I'm going to run, and I'm going to win, and I expect your support. Well, he did run. He did eventually get our support from the Republican Governors Association. And since then, he's compiled just an incredible record in the state. Over the last 4 years, the state of Florida has added 785,000 jobs. That is an incredible achievement. He's made life better for so many middle Americans. He's improved the standards of education. He's reduced taxes. He's created a budget surplus. He's shown what an effective CEO can do and how business principles applied at the state level can have great success. It's with pride that I introduce the Governor of Florida, Rick Scott.
Well, first, Doug and Fred, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I've been blessed because I grew up in this country. Like Fred said, we have similarities. We were born in Illinois. I was born in Bloomington, Illinois, My mom was going through a divorce when I was born. I have an adopted father. I never met my natural father. My adopted father had a sixth grade education. He did all the combat jumps in the 82nd Airborne in the Second World War. We lived in public housing for a while when I was growing up. We eventually moved to Kansas City where he got a better job. But my parents struggled a lot for jobs. So my whole life I thought about how do you create an environment where people can get a job. So in 2010, you're right, I was not the establishment candidate running for governor, but I won to everybody's surprise, the primary and the general. And then I set out trying to make our state the state where if you want to get a job, you can get a job. If you want your children to get a great education, you can get a great education, and you can live in a safe environment. So we've added over 700,000 jobs, and to put that in perspective, the 4 years before I got elected, the state lost 832,000 jobs. Home prices dropped almost 50%. Unemployment went from 3.5 to 11.1%. The state borrowed almost $9 billion. Part of it unemployment debt. The other part is just pure state debt. And we've done just the opposite. We've cut taxes 40 times. We've paid off $7.5 billion worth of debt. Unemployment's gone from 11.1 to 5.6%. And we've added an unbelievable number of jobs. Over 700,000 jobs in 4 years. So we've turned our economy around, but we're continuing to try to put our state in the position that we're the global leaders for job creation. There's no reason Florida should not be the winner. We have much better weather than up here, for one thing. Everybody wants to be in Florida. We had 97 million tourists last year, fourth year in a row, record tourism. We've had a big increase in our trade jobs. We've invested in our ports. We have 15 ports interstate. We are getting manufacturing jobs. We had a sales tax on machinery and equipment that we've eliminated for 3 years. We're going to make it permanent. So we're making significant progress. This year, we have in Florida, you have session every year for 60 days. This year, we'll have my big budget and my big session items are: one, record funding for K-12 education, which now we can do because we have a big budget surplus. My first year, I had a $4 billion budget deficit. Number two, hold the line on the cost of college. We've got to continue to work on making college more affordable. And number three, cut $673 million in additional taxes. We cut $500 million last year. So we're heading in the right direction, but again, it's great to be here. Thank you very much.
These are the hard questions.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to sort of start where one of the places you left off, which is your emphasis on education, both K-12 and higher education in Florida. Can you tell me a little bit about sort of why you chose to focus so much on that?
Here's the way I think about it. My goal is to create an environment in Florida that a family like mine growing up can succeed. So step one, they need to be able to get a job. We have 279,000 job openings right now in the state, and we only have about 88,000 people on unemployment benefits now. So about 3 times as many job openings as we have people unemployed. Our workforce is growing. We added, I think, about 240,000 people in the workforce last year and added 225,000 jobs, something like that. Number two is you can't get there without a good education system. And I can't recruit companies without a good education system. On Monday and Tuesday next week, I'll be in Pennsylvania recruiting companies. Their new governor wants to raise taxes, which is always, it's basically opposite what we're doing. So we have a lot of measurement, we've got high expectations, and our education system is doing well. Our fourth graders are number 2 in the world in reading, 2 in the world. We have for low-income students, we had the highest student achievement gains last year in the United States. The National Council for Teacher Quality says we have the most effective teachers 2 surveys in a row. And I could go on and on and on how well it's doing. On top of that, though, we've got to make sure when they get out of high school that they can afford to go to State College or University. So my second year, it was early in my term, I challenged all of our state colleges. We have 28. 23 have 4-year degrees. I said, can you do a total tuition 4-year degree for $10,000? They all came up with it. They all figured out how to do it. We're going to expand that into more STEM areas this year. And then our universities were raising tuition at 15+% a year. We finally stopped that this last year. And so the cost of a prepaid went from about $350 a month for 18 years for a newborn to $175. So we dropped it in half. So, but if we don't, the families like mine growing up, they'll never get to go to school. I mean, think about how much less expensive it was when we were going to school. I think it was $200 a semester to go to junior college when I went, and $255 for university.
Well, mine was $0 because I went to West Point.
Oh, did you? Yeah, I joined the Navy after 1 year junior college.
Can I ask you one more question about that, Fred, if you don't mind? You do this. You have this system known as performance funding,
Right.
which sounds great. Like you get more funding if you perform well. How in fact, does it work? And are you getting the results out of it? Because
absolutely,
we have.
This will be our third year. So it's primarily tied to three things. What's it cost to get a degree? Do you get a job when you finish? And how much money do you make? And so the first year, we only had $20 million in it. The second year, $200 million. This year, we'll have $460 million. We're taking part of the universities and the state colleges' base funding and putting it in there. So you're paid for performance. How are you doing? And every school won't get it. So STEM degrees are up. Graduation rates are up. The schools are now much more focused on when you finish, there's a career track? Do you have a job when you're finished? So it's having a big impact. And there's a real focus on where the jobs are. I mean, we have 279,000 job openings right now in the state. And so my goal is to get everybody educated in a manner that those jobs can all be filled.
I have a couple of questions. Let me start with this one, building on education. Did you go to a community college at start?
Yeah, 1 year junior college, then I joined the Navy, and then I finished at University of Missouri, Kansas City. And then
where'd you go to junior college?
Maple Woods, north of the river in Kansas City.
And I went to Morton Junior College for 1 year in Cicero, Illinois, before I went to West Point.
Oh.
So my question is this. President Obama has proposed that there be free education at junior colleges for everybody, or community colleges as they're called, for anybody who wants to do it. About 60% of the public seem to approve of that. We, on the Republican side, have kind of scoffed at it. What do you think about that?
Well, I think, look, anything we can do to make education more affordable, I'm supportive of, because if you're wealthy, you're going to be able to pay your parents, or you can pay for school, right? But if you're not, you can't. We just have to understand who's going to pay for it. Any program we have, who's going to actually pay the dollars. So in Florida, well, here's what we're doing. You can get your first 2 years of college done basically for free, because you can do it while you're in high school. So we have a dual enrollment program there. So you can do that now. So my focus was more on how can you get tuition as low as possible, so our families can afford it. Because if it's I just don't know who's going to pay for it and what taxes are going to pay for it. And I'm cutting taxes. We're not raising taxes in our state. But I'm on top of this year on our college affordability bill that we're supporting. One, I want there to be notice if your state college or university is ever going to raise tuition or a fee. You should have 30 days notice so you can let them know, the board members know. Number two, get rid of the sales tax on textbooks. I mean, there's textbooks that are just ridiculously expensive. This will save our students a lot of money. Three, you should know before you sign up for a class what the total cost for the instructional material is. Because if there's two classes you can take and one costs $500 and one costs $30, maybe you pick which one you do. And then I want to support our state colleges that have more $10,000 degrees in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math.
What is the magic for keeping tuition down? You said you went to them and said $10,000 and they got there. How?
They just became more. They're just like everything else. You start measuring it and ask them. People can be more creative. So they've done a variety of things. Some have gone out and got businesses to support the students, because the right thing is to go to a business and say, if I have this type of graduate, will you hire them? And that's what you would do, and it's how you do sales, right? If I build this, will you buy it? So you have some of them did that. Some of them worked with the high schools to get where the students got more credits before they ever went to state college. A lot of them did that, and then some of them just found a way to be more efficient with the cost of the classes. the cost of professors, things like that. Everybody did something a little bit different. There was no, so we had 23 laboratories basically. And they're all different degrees, but all of them are tied to a job at the end.
On the tax front, it looks, when I look at the taxes you went after, like you're targeting the middle class and small businesses. So,
Right.
you're doing middle class economics.
Right.
The White House, not far down there, also claims to be doing middle class economics. What's the difference in these approaches?
Well, we actually cut taxes. They don't
big
seem
difference.
to cut them. I haven't seen any federal taxes really get cut. So what we've gone after is broad-based tax cuts for everybody. So as an example, in Florida we have a communication services tax for your cell phone and your cable and satellite TV bill. So if you're spending $100 a month on average, you're going to get $43 a year in savings. Textbooks is about, if you're a full-time student, $60 a year in savings. We also, 2 years ago, I got rid of the sales tax for a manufacturer when they bought machinery and equipment. I want to make that permanent. We've also been raising the credit for businesses. If we don't have an income tax, as you know, in Florida, you don't pay a tax if you're separately as a corporation, if you're a sub-S or an LLC. And now over 70% of our C corporations don't pay a tax. So it's helping the small businesses prosper. I've never met a small business that didn't want to get bigger, or a big business that wanted to get smaller. So it's helping them hopefully grow and add more jobs. So my goal long term is to completely get rid of the business tax. It's only about $2 billion out of our $77 billion budget. So when we do that, think about tell me how another state's going to compete. No personal income tax, no business tax at all. And we eventually can do it because our cost of government's lower. The average person pays $1,800 a year in state taxes, lowest in the country. We have the smallest number per capita state workers in the country, and we're just holding down the size of government every day.
To create 785,000 jobs in 4 years, yes, you have a good education system, and yes, you have a good climate, and people want to go there, but there's got to be more to it. You're rated very highly, the state's very, very highly as a place to do business. What about the regulatory environment? How have you dealt with that? Have you been able to reduce and simplify some of that stuff?
So here's the way I thought about when I got elected. We'd lost 832,000 jobs the prior 4 years. I said 7 steps to 700,000 jobs over 7 years. So it's like that United Way thermometer, trying to get there. So I focused on one thing we do well as tourism. So we started increasing our funding to market the state. And so now we've gone from 82 million tourists. We've gone up every year. This last year, 97 million tourists. Every 85 tourists is another job. And when people come down to Florida, they say the weather's nice. I think I'll buy a house, but they do a lot there. Second, we invested $700 million in our ports. So that's added about 150,000 trade jobs. And we should be the shipping capital for the East Coast with our proximity to Latin America, the Panama Canal being expanded, our shipping channels to Europe. That's working. Manufacturing is also come back strong. We've cut 3,100 regulations. We've streamlined the permitting.
How many?
3,100.
Wow.
So we constantly go through all of our agencies and said, is there something that we can get rid of? And most of it we've done directly through the agencies. Some we've done through the legislature. We've also tried to streamline the permitting process. So as an example, I think to get a professional license in the state when I got elected was 47 days. It's now less than 2. We went through and made sure that on permits like environmental permits, that if we're going to turn you down, we're going to turn you down because you can't do it. But if we're going to approve you, we're going to approve you. We're not going to make you wait 10 years to get your approval. We're going to tell you, because we want people to comply with our laws. And don't make it a lot more predictable. So we've done all those things. And so, and then I tell people, call me if you think that our agencies are not being responsive. I'll find out. We're still going to enforce our laws, but I'll find out.
One of the big regulatory pushes at the federal level has been EPA regs over the past 6 years.
That impacts my state every day.
And we at the American Action Forum spend a lot of time adding up the cost of these regulations. Sam Batkinson is Reg Rodeo Shop. It's a big number. It's about $95 billion a year now in additional regulatory burdens overall. 38 billion of that's in the EPA, and the reaction of many conservatives has been to simply sue or complain or just really have no positive solutions. Just stop. You've actually spent a fair amount of money on environmental issues in Florida, the Everglades, water conservation, springs, all these things. How do you think conservatives should think about environmental issues and approach this?
My family wants to live in a pristine environment, and I'm sure yours does too. So what I've done is just start the process of let's solve problems. That's what you do in business. The state of Florida had a decades-old lawsuit over the Everglades with 4 federal agencies. So I had to sit down with Justice, EPA, Interior, Corps of Engineers to try to settle the lawsuit. And we did. We agreed that it's an $880 million commitment to water quality in the Everglades, and I got that passed in the legislature. We have a record funding for our springs. We have 900 freshwater springs, primarily I-4 corridor, the Orlando area north. So we've been funding our springs. We have we just passed constitutional amendment, Amendment 1, which would require us to spend a certain amount of money on conservation and maintenance and things. We've been spending more than that constitutional amendment required. This year, my budget is $80 million more than required, and it's $150 million this year on the Everglades. I asked for a dedicated funding source for the Everglades, which would give us $5 billion over the next 20 years. $50 million this year on our springs, and I also want another dedicated funding source for them because we're going to continue to have issues. And then we continue to have water supply that we want to continue to improve. Right now, Florida is blessed with lots of water. We just got to make sure we use it wisely. But my goal is let's solve problems. So as an example, part of that money this year on the Everglades, there's 2 storm treatment areas, C-43 and C-44. We'll create about 100 billion gallons of storage, but we're still going to need more. What's frustrating is the feds are not putting up their money. They're not, whether it's for infrastructure or whether it's for the Everglades, they're not doing their fair share that they've committed to in the past. Like on the ports, we've had to put up their portion of the money like to get the dredge project done in Miami, to get ready for the Panama Canal. So some of the other areas we've had to put up the federal portion. And they're way behind doing what they committed years ago to do with regard to the Everglades. They're over $1 billion behind. So, but I want to live in a pristine place. So I think everybody else does.
Can I ask a political question?
Go for it. You're the boss.
You ran against a candidate in November who was a Republican, and then an independent, and then a Democrat. So it seemed like he was a man for all seasons. What did he try to paste on you in order to beat you, and how did you beat him?
Sure. You hear about the Republican, the Democrat, and the independent walking to the bar? Bartran says, "Hi, Charlie." That was my opponent. So
There'll be no further jokes.
It's true, though. It's true. It's true.
Here's what we had to do. We had to explain to people actually what he did was governor, because he'd been out of office for 4 years, and so we had to explain that he lost 832,000 jobs while he was governor. He raised taxes $2 billion while he was governor. Housing prices dropped almost in half while he was governor. So we had to explain who he was, and then we had to work on making sure people understood that we had turned the economy around, that unemployment had dropped from 11.1 to it by November was probably, it's 5.6 now, so it's probably about 6%. In the fact that we'd added 700,000 plus jobs, so I'd made my campaign promise. But my first year in office, I walked into a $4 billion budget deficit, so I had to balance the budget. So we had to reduce the cost of things, and so I, of course, got attacked over reducing cost of things. And so you got to explain what you did, and the public. My belief is we won because the public wants jobs.
What did he accuse you of? What did he promise to do better? How could Zach do any better than 800,000 jobs in 4 years?
Oh, I mean, he talked. I mean, I mean, there's conversations about, you know, global warming and the environment and things like that. But I mean, he did, well, an example, he brought up packing some of our utilities. Well, his governor, utility costs went up, and while I've been governor, utility costs have come down. So but it's, you know, you just have to keep telling your story. Why you know.
Yeah, he did do one good thing while he was governor.
What's that?
This goes back to when Doug was the policy director for the McCain campaign in 08, now as finance chairman.
This is my fault somehow.
So we go into Florida.
This is good for
we're in
you.
the primary, and Romney is creeping up, has the momentum. And on the Saturday before the Tuesday, he turned his back. He turned his back on Giuliani, who he had promised to endorse, and endorsed McCain, because he thought I guess he saw a winner. And then he went out and campaigned hard, and that kind of edged us away from Romney. And once we won Florida, we were home free. There's two elements to the story. One, he was very opportunistic, and I mean, it was a terrible thing that he did to somebody he'd made a promise to, Giuliani, but it really helped us.
Giuliani's still a little miffed about that.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so.
We had an ad for that too.
Another political question, then you get back to your. You know, Rick Scott is one of the few governors, Republican governors, who hasn't yet declared he's going to run for president.
Yeah, there's a lot
right
yeah.
now. We have a number of them who are hinting at it. We don't know exactly who's going to go, but we do know that one former governor from Florida is just at the cusp of announcing, and at the same time you have a senator from Florida who's very, very close. Mm-hmm. How do you navigate between that, and what any observations you have on the race?
Well, we've got Governor Bush is thinking about running, Senator Rubio, Governor Huckabee lives in Florida.
Oh, he does?
Yeah. Dr. Ben Carson, I think, lives in Florida. Rick Perry appears he might be running, Bobby Jindal, Chris Christie, Scott Walker, and so you know all these.
Yeah.
And
maybe Mike Pence?
Yeah, I was just with Mike Pence, so there's a lot. Yeah. Well, here's why I think about it. We need to have a president that understands, number one, the most important thing we can do right now is turn our economy around. I mean, it's the biggest issue we got in our country. Mm-hmm. We have become less competitive with other countries. It means we're not going to have job growth. I want my kids, my grandkids, I want them to be able to get jobs in America. So they've got to do what we've done in Florida. They've got to stop the growth of government. They've got to cut taxes. They've got to reduce regulation. They've got to streamline the permitting process. That's step one. Step two, we need to have a president that is going to really fight the war on terror. I mean, we have citizens being beheaded, and we've got to get somebody that's going to go fight it. Three, we've got to get somebody that's going to talk about how great our country is. I'm trying to get people to brag about Florida. My wife grew up in Dallas. Texans brag about their state all the time. I want people in Florida to brag about our state, and I want our president to brag about our country. I mean, we have an exceptional country. If you look at people like us can come from anywhere. I mean, my goal is you should be able in Florida or in the United States, doesn't matter what family, zip code, country you came from, you should be able to live your dream. And we need to have a president that believes in that dream. So
good.
So we'll see. We'll see how everybody does.
Yeah.
So your approach was to cut taxes. If you could get the White House right now to cut one tax at the federal level, which one would you pick?
There's plenty. I mean, they had to reduce income taxes for personal income taxes. They need to reduce corporate taxes. You can't have higher corporate taxes than the rest of the world and think the company's going to flock here. They're not. All right. Our income taxes are too high. Lately, I've heard conversations about raising the gas tax. That doesn't make any sense to me. We don't even get all of our money back. They should just give us our money and don't tax us on gas. We'll do it ourselves. But I mean, I don't care where they start. They got to stop this growth of government. They can't run deficits like they are. They got to start paying down debt like we have. You can do it. I mean, but you've got to grow your economy. We've been able to turn our budget around because we've turned our economy around. It's all about the economy. And so I went from a $4 billion budget deficit to almost a $2 billion surplus because we turned our economy around.
So talked about keeping government small, and you have a long track record in health. Talk to me about how you thought about the Medicaid expansions in the Affordable Care Act.
Sure.
What has Florida done, which is a little bit unique, and why did you do it this way?
So when I walked in, the Medicaid program in Florida was growing at 3.5 times our general revenue. Okay, so now it's not a small program. That was $20 billion out of a $70 billion budget. So there's no way to pay for that. So what we did is we did reform where we allowed the private sector to take responsibility for our patients. We let them, they had to tell us what price they would charge us. So now we have a program that our taxpayers can afford, and our Medicaid recipient knows who's going to take care of them. And it's tied to quality and access. And we know the cost. So with regard to, and as you know, I opposed Obamacare. It's not good for our country. It's not good for our citizens. It's not good for anybody who needs health care. Because it didn't control cost, which was the biggest problem before. So when they passed it, just like any other federal government program, if they want to do a program and they want to pay 100% of it, they ought to do it. But if they want me to have to pay part of it through our state taxpayers, where we have to tax, then that's not right. They should go do it on their own. I had the same view about high-speed rail. If the federal government wants to build a rail project, have at it. If they want me to have to participate, I disagree with that. So we'll see what's going to happen.
So exactly what have you done?
We've done, there were Medicaid reform, that all approved, but nothing's happened with regard to Medicaid expansion.
And certainly if you did any expansion, they'd have to pay for all of it. And so the out years you just wouldn't touch.
Right, yeah, unless they want to pay for it. I'm all in if other people want to pay for things.
Yeah, you and my daughter.
Yeah, my kids. Oh, I mean, it's not my program, right?
So the other,
it's a federal program.
The other hot potato in the health area is the looming Supreme Court decision on King versus Burwell and the subsidies. First of all, what situation would Florida be in if they overturn the subsidies through the federal exchange?
We don't have an exchange.
Okay.
So but my expectation is this is a federal program. It's a federal problem. They would solve their federal problem.
And so your advice to other governors in the same situation is?
I don't give advice to other governors. I compete with other governors for jobs. For Florida, my job is to run our state better than any other state. So our citizens get jobs, get great health care, live in a safe community. So, but any federal program, they should fix their federal problems.
You talk about running a state better than any other state. What are some of the similarities you found between being a CEO in business and being a CEO at the state level, and what major differences?
I think the things that's the same is you have to manage something. You have to run it. You have to actually make a decision. You don't get to just sort of talk about it. So you have to go solve the problem. You are held accountable.
But how do you do that?
Well, you do just like you do in business. Find the best people you can find. Surround yourself with the best people. Set out specific goals for everything you want to accomplish. Measure the living daylights out of your agencies now, your personnel, and then hold people accountable. So that's what's the same. The difference between this and in companies is there's a lot more press. So you're in the press as governor every day.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest difference. You have a legislature that you deal with, but you have boards of directors, you have shareholders, you have lots of different constituencies if you run a big company. So I think that's similar. So in that regard, you got to figure out how to work with people.
What's harder?
They're just different. They're both. There's a ball to be the governor. This is the best job you can imagine. Yeah. If you like people, if you want to try to impact somebody's life, I like to be in healthcare because you could impact somebody's life. This is very similar. So it's great when you can go talk to somebody that got a job that didn't have one 4 years ago, or somebody that they feel good about their kids' education, or they live in a safe community, or so that's what's exciting about the job. But it was the same in business. But I like being governor. It's so much fun. What's nice is my wife likes what she's doing. She was when I told her I wanted to run, she said it's great as long as I don't have to give any talks. She does them every day now. So she's having fun though. She's been in every county. She's been in schools in every county. She goes to hospitals. She did a new parents book, so she distributes.
But you got to live in Tallahassee instead of Naples.
Yeah. But we travel a lot. People are nice everywhere.
Yeah.
It is a little bit colder in Tallahassee than in Naples this time of year, but yeah, Naples is pretty nice. I think it's 70 today. What's the temperature out? Was like 6 this morning? I think it was.
Yeah, it was 6.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 70 today in Naples. Golly. Yeah.
You're winning lots of hearts right now.
Yeah. I'm trying to get on Monday and Tuesday. I'm going to be in Philadelphia, trying to recruit companies, and I hope it just well, I'm sure it's going to stay cold. I don't have to hope. It's going to be really cold. So I'm sure the governor there is excited that I'm coming. He hasn't called to welcome me, but I'm sure he will. But he also hasn't called and said he's not going to raise taxes.
So as you look forward now, right, you've got a record of accomplishment. What's left that you want to accomplish for Florida, and what are the sort of 3 things you want to do to get there?
Step 1 is I want our state to be perceived in has to be reality that if you want to get a job, you can do it in Florida. So bar none, we have the best economy for jobs. So we have to continue to reduce taxes, reduce regulation, streamline permitting process, recruit companies. We've got to do all those things. Number 2, I want every family to say, I have to live in Florida because I know my kids will get a better education there than anyplace else. So whether you're going to stop at high school, which most of my family members growing up never went to college. My dad only has 6th grade education. So, a lot of people are not going to go to college. If you're going to stop at high school, when you finish high school, you have a career opportunity in front of you. If you're going to go on to higher ed, 1, you can afford it, and 2, you know that there's going to be a great job at the end. And then we're already doing really well at this. We're at a 43.5-year low in our crime rate, so I just want to keep that going. We've done a really good job.
How have you done that?
There's a variety of things. What we've accomplished in the last 3 years, we've seen a big drop in juvenile arrest. We've changed our focus on juvenile justice to deal if we have a 12-year-old that gets stopped for something, what is causing the problem? Is it homelessness? Is it food? Is it drugs? What is the issue to try to stop them from going down the path where they end up in prison at 18? We tried it in our corrections to when you're getting out,
Yep.
you have a job, you have a path to success when you get out, so you don't end up in crime again. So that's we have good sheriff's department, police departments, and we've dramatically expanded a program with regard to DNA. So we're able to solve some crimes because now we have a much bigger DNA base. So we've been funding that. You have to serve 85% of your sentence in Florida. So then we've kept that. That has worked. So it's like everything else. It's never one thing. It's all these things together. There's a job openings for people. So because if you don't have food for your child, you're going to do something about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But people want to work. I haven't met a high school student or a college student said at the end of this, I'm anxious to go on unemployment. Not once.
So there's a lot of talk now about come out of high school. There's the traditional college track, but new approaches to vocational training, things like that. Do you have a specific strategy on that? Or?
Yeah, we've done a variety of things, but step 1 is now you have different types of degrees when you go. You have a normal high school diploma, or you have one that you're college ready. All right. We're also working with our developmentally disabled students. We're putting a lot of effort in there. And then we have technical schools around the state, so we're increasing our funding for those, which is especially helping in a lot of areas, but especially advanced manufacturing, which we're going after a lot of jobs there. We've had Lockheed Martin, AT&T, Verizon, Northrop Grumman, a lot of groups expand in our state. Pratt & Whitney, a lot of groups expand. United Technologies, and so we've got a variety of programs in our technical schools and in our high schools to get people ready for a career if they don't want to go to college. And then if you do want to go to college or university, you can afford it. And we're also knowing that they're going to help you get a job when you finish. So
I didn't ask this before, but for a while, Florida was actually losing population. It wasn't just losing. That's turned around as well.
Changed. I think it was 290,000 people moved there last year. So our population's growing, our tourism's growing, housing prices are up. If so, you better buy your houses now. So, so no, we're growing population. Our students in K-12 is increasing. So I mean, we're already past New York now. It's the third biggest state. So we'll have more at the next census. We'll have more congressional seats than they will.
Wow.
So, fun. So you move now.
Not until we get the answer to this next question, which
Okay.
is for many states, there's the current budget problem, then there's the pension problem, and the poster child for this is your native state of Illinois.
Yep.
How's Florida look on that front, and what have you done to make sure it doesn't get out of control?
We're better than 4 years ago, but we're not where we need to be. We're right about 87% funded,
Okay.
so that's a positive. When I came in, said everybody in the pension plan ought to participate, so they do now. They pay 3% in. They weren't paying anything in before. And so we've been working to fix things every year. There's discussions about how to do even more to move that along. So we've increased. We're moving up as far as being fully funded, but we're not there yet. So.
Have you changed anything in terms of
Yeah,
yours and
yeah, we did. You have to pay in now, so that changed. We are. It took a little longer investing and things like that. But we're not there yet.
Yeah.
No, but we're better than most people are happy with it. If you're over 80%, I was.
87% is terrific.
Yeah, but you're not.
Most.
We need to get to 100%.
Yeah.
Because I tell people, if you're a school teacher relying on this, you need to be 100% funded, because at some point, it's not going to be there.
Yeah.
But that's one of the hardest things to get done. So if they, if the feds don't deal with their deficit issue, eventually we're going to have so much hyperinflation, it'll be fully funded, the dollar just won't be worth anything. So.
Governor, we want to keep you on your schedule, so I'm going to give Fred the privilege of the final question.
Oh my!
And
Well, what's been the biggest surprise or biggest disappointment in your 4 years?
I thought it'd take longer to get to 700,000 jobs than it took. We got that done in 4 years. I tell you, it's the people who work in state government are really good people. They really care about what they're doing. There's a real good mission. Some of the, you get frustrated sometimes with the politics that there's not just we're all trying to go to that goal. Why isn't everybody just going for the goal rather than some of the politics of getting there?
Yeah.
But that's there's probably that in companies too. I guess there is. So it's not. We're getting where we want to go. It's exciting. This is you should run for governor.
When I get a little bit older, maybe I will.
Yeah. But this is, by the way, I do try to talk everybody into running for office. I think people ought to get more involved politically. I tell business people this all the time that you've got to spend more time on the politics of what's happening in your government. You spend all this time on labor costs or supply costs or things like that. You ought to be more involved in government. And I tell young people this: you ought to get involved in government. And the way you learn the most is work on a campaign or go to work in government or run for office.
But you gotta inure yourself to the attacks.
Yeah.
And that's tough, and it's tough on the family, it's
attacks.
tough on the wife.
Yeah, it's hard. It's
how
hard.
did you handle that? I mean, when you're in business, maybe your shareholders will be critical, but you don't have these assaults on your character and everything else like you do in politics. Did it bother you?
I never saw one ad against me in either of my two races.
You just don't watch them. Yeah.
No, I know what I'm trying to get done.
Yeah.
I go do what I'm trying to get done. My wife, she probably sees some of them, but so she seems she's having a ball. I mean, she loves going to these schools. I mean, who wouldn't want to go to a school and talk to kids? That's about the most fun you can do in life, and listen to their stories. And she comes back with all sorts of stories. She'll come back with stories all the time. So it's fun. So being the governor of Florida is a great job. So
Well, you're doing a great job.
I'd be better to be first lady.
You're doing a great job. We really appreciate you.
All
Thanks
right.
for being
Thanks
here.
a lot. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
a lot. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you, Governor.
Thanks.
Before we adjourn, mark your calendars. The next installment of the Fred Malek Lecture Series will be on March 16th, and Governor Bobby Jindal from the state of Louisiana will be here that afternoon. Hope to see you.
Bobby's a good